Welcome to this episode of the Awakening Women podcast. Before I dive into today's topic of the top 5 things that I would say would very much link toward your relationship health, mainly if you are experiencing narcissistic abuse, destructive abuse cycles, the mental, psychological, emotional, coercion, control, manipulation, all of that. We're going to talk about 5 pretty common physical symptoms that manifest as part of that dynamic and that cycle. But before I dive into that, I want to just make a couple of announcements. So the first is I have a brand new bundle. It's called No More Toxic Cycles bundle. It is some classes that I have pulled from my program, my signature program, and the cycle. I pulled it from the vault. I have so many videos and things that I've recorded over the last 6 years, and some of it hasn't even necessarily made it into the program because it's recordings of classes and things that I've made for certain cohorts. And so I cherry picked some that were around the cycle of abuse, the tactics, the definitive things that narcissists do, the definitive ways that they act in relationships, so that you can stop questioning yourself because you're draining your energy with the overthinking. So then when you can stop with the overthink, it doesn't mean it goes away. You've got to train your brain to stop going there. But it's having that level of awareness that I talk about in the 5 levels of awakening is you get to awareness when you are clear of the cycle. And I teach you in there how to get clear, what exactly do you do to develop clarity of the patterns so that you can see them. And, just the hidden abuse tactics and all of that. So they are all as part of the No More Toxic Cycles bundle. And I talk in there about the narcissistic abuse effect and the mental impact of narcissistic abuse. So to grab that bundle, head to the link in the show notes. And if you are wanting to work with me in depth, I have a couple of ways you can do that at this point. And those are in the show notes as well. The working with me would require booking a call with me to discuss which program might be the best option for you, because I have learned that when I'm working with women where I'm actually interacting with you, you need to be at a certain point for me to be able to help you. It just works best if I can get on a call with you and figure out what would be best for you at the point and the stage that you are at. You can book that call in the show notes if you're ready to get support with your situation. And then for December, I'm doing something different. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm going to be doing a best of series. So what I've done is I've bundled together certain podcast episodes that work together. So I went through the vault of over 500 episodes I've done since starting Awakening Women. And I am just sifting through some of them and putting the ones together that kind of seem like they fit into one longer episode. And so it's been quite the project, but it's been really good because it's making me realize, well, number one, how much content I've created, how many podcasts I've recorded over the last 6 years. But really, it's to help you get a little bit deeper dive in the podcast through longer episodes. So that is coming out each Thursday in December. And I'd love to know what you think about that when you've listened to the first one. Let me know what you think with the longer episodes where I've stitched them together. So I'm excited about that project. It's a creative project for me to see all of the stuff I have, and it will bring you longer episodes as a result. Okay, so let's dive into the topic of today. And this is the physical manifestations that would point toward narcissistic abuse. Now, if any of these are happening, do not take this as medical advice. I am not a doctor. What I'm saying is, and that doesn't mean that being in the abusive relationship causes these things, but I would say that at least some of them are going to be present with a woman that is experiencing these cycles. But if you have any of these issues, definitely go see a doctor, go see a naturopath, get some blood work done. dig deeper. Remember that GPs can only go so far. They're really good for breaking or for broken bones and emergency surgeries and things like that, but they're not there to help you heal the root cause of your health issues. So realizing that a large part of the physical issues that you might be experiencing right now, and you're in one of these relationships, that is the cause. I'm hoping that offers you a bit more of, one of those experiences of you're giving your head a shake, right? Like, oh, I didn't even put two and two together, that there was a correlation to this. So one that's less known, that isn't talked about a lot, and that I've heard from many women is a higher resting heart rate or racing heart. And this one is dangerous because the truth is we only have so many heartbeats in our heart, right? It can only go for so long. And the faster our heart is beating, the more stress it's putting on our heart. It could be increasing blood pressure. It could be doing all kinds of things to our body. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just giving you the very brief overview of this. You have to Google what a higher resting heart rate can mean and what it can do as far as your health goes. There's a resting heart rate range, and it said that it should be like in the low 70s. You can test your resting heart rate if you have a Fitbit or an Apple Watch and you wear it for 30 days or every night to bed, and it will give you your resting heart rate when you're actually at rest. It's not the same to take it when you're just sitting at your desk, because your true resting heart rate is when you are at rest, like sleeping in your sleep state. That's the best way to track it. But what you will find is that you probably have it's common to have a higher resting heart rate, as well as experiencing racing heart when you are replaying incidents, when you are anticipating an argument, when you know you have to talk to them about something, when they're coming home during one of those crazy making fights that lead to all kinds of mental twisting, and that could create that racing heart panic feeling. So really it's like a anxiety adrenaline response, which again, that going on all the time is so deadly. Like honestly, I think that can set you up for a lot of health issues. Just being in that chronic state of anxiety and panic and having your nervous system just revved up full blast. Even when maybe you think there's nothing going on, you're ruminating, you're thinking, you're worrying, you're overthinking, you're playing things in your mind. So that gets registered in the body as well, right? Mind-body connection. And so just notice that if that's what you experience, and realize that is a very serious thing. Our heart is delicate. And, if you have weight gain and those kinds of things along with that, you're at a really big risk of developing different things as we get into our 40s. We're more at risk to developing like insulin resistance and things like that as we go into perimenopause and menopause. So if you're like me in your 40s, I'm watching all kinds of markers like that and being very mindful. Along with that, being mindful of your waist circumference. And so for women, it should be below 35. I think I've even seen it should be below 31 as far as measuring it around your belly button kind of thing, just for the sake of preventing or reducing your risk of heart disease, insulin resistance, diabetes, stroke, all of cancer, all those things because the fat we carry around our midsection is the most dangerous fat. So that's another side tip, because from what we're going to talk about here in a minute, it can be a side effect of high cortisol and stress. So the second one is your adrenals. So our adrenals are what produces our cortisol. So when you are in high stress, say you're running from a bear, you're running from a scary man or something in the alleyway, your body starts pumping cortisol adrenaline through your body to get you to run really, really fast to save your life. So that's a short-lived thing that happens, and you need it to maybe run faster, get to safety, all of that. But when that is happening 1, 2, 3, 4 times a day, it's happening when you're laying in bed in your sleep, it's happening when you're driving in your car, it's happening when you're replaying events, you're just constantly bathing your body in cortisol, and that can lead to what's known as adrenal fatigue or adrenal dysfunction or HP axis dysfunction. I know way too much about this because I spent over 20 years in perpetual adrenal fatigue that nothing ever fixed, nothing ever worked. The amount of things I did, the money I paid for alternative health and naturopathic care and supplements and all the different diets and literally everything, and it never changed. I was exhausted all the time. And so when you have that going on for long enough, you can develop low cortisol, and that is like the devil to experience. Is awful. And so if you have low morning cortisol, you wake up feeling like you've been hit by a bus. You feel like you haven't slept. You feel like you can't get out of bed. Maybe you can't. It's not a tired, like, oh, just suck it up. It's like bone level exhaustion. Like you can't even lift your head off the pillow. It's, unless you've experienced it, you wouldn't understand. It's awful. So if you have really deep morning fatigue, that is an indicator of low cortisol, and get your adrenals tested with a naturopath because they will be able to help you with that more than a blood test would with your GP. And most GPs will deny adrenal fatigue exists. So there's that. I know too much about this. I used to specialize in this. I have a whole program that I've created on this topic because it's what I helped women with for many years. I specialized in burnout and adrenal exhaustion for women. And so I know a lot about this. So if you have that exhaustion, that weight gain around the middle, that's very indicative of high cortisol or low cortisol. You got to get it tested to see where you're at. And then the next is migraine, and it could be headaches too. I've always had migraine, like since I was about 15, I started having them, but they have gotten better and better and better over time. Usually they're just linked to my cycle. But in the past, I have had them so bad that I literally couldn't get out of bed for the day because I felt so nauseous. And just, unless you've had a migraine, you don't get it. It's not a headache. It's a full body experience, and it's bloody awful. And you got the nausea and dizziness, and you're so tired. You just can't even function. You can't think straight. You just want to lay in a dark room and quiet. And so I have had attacks in the past that were really scary and really bad. And so if you experience that and you are living in one of these relationships, just realize that whether it's caused by it, because it may not be, like I said, I had it as a teenager, but it can definitely make it worse for sure. The next is digestion. So, and again, that could be related to your nutrition, food sensitivities, all of those things, right? I'm not here to say that that's the only cause, but it certainly won't help. If you are under a lot of stress and your adrenals are not functioning well, your digestive enzymes are probably not where they should be, and you may not be digesting your food correctly. And so there's this whole loop of things can happen. If you're experiencing a lot of digestive discomfort and upset, that's very much linked to stress, of course, right? That's why when you feel anxious, you get butterflies. That's why when you're nervous to go do something, you feel a bit sick, right? It's very much connected. And it's where we take in everything through our gut level. It's like, the gut feeling. That's where we feel our intuition. That's where we usually feel like the gut punch. You've heard of that before. I just felt like I got punched in the gut. Like, where do you think these sayings come from, right? So look at that. If you're someone that's trying to figure out why you can't eat anything without a reaction, believe me, I've been there. Literally, like, okay, there's nothing I can eat, like rice and broccoli and chicken. And so while I'm all about, being mindful of things you're sensitive to and improving your digestive health, you have to make sure that it's not being made worse or being caused by the intense stress you're under. And then the last one I'll talk about here, again, this isn't exhaustive because you can develop other things as well. And that is an autoimmune condition. And that is something I developed. And it was a very serious, I would guess I consider them all serious, but the one that I have can be deadly if it's not treated. So I had to unwillingly and begrudgingly go on medication to get it under control. But And I've worked with many women too who they have an autoimmune disease after being in one of these relationships. So do your research, do some looking into metaphysical connection to these things if you want to go a bit deeper. But really, it's the biggest things are looking at your heart rate, see where you're at. Maybe you're not affected. Maybe you don't get the racing heart. Migraine and headaches, digestive issues, adrenal and hormone imbalances, and autoimmune. So those are the big 5, I would say, that those things, if you're struggling with those things, they're not going to get better within that dynamic and within that environment. No matter what you do, how healthy you eat, no matter how much you exercise, if you're trying to lose weight, it's going to be pretty difficult to do when your body is literally in survival mode, just trying to keep you going because it's being stressed and drained and depleted on a daily basis. So that's what I wanted to chat with you in this episode all about. And if you are experiencing these things and you'd like my mentorship around how to navigate your relationship and navigate health issues and how do you start to conserve your energy and put the oxygen mask on yourself as you are trying to figure out what to do, this is exactly what I do with women. I've helped countless women do this exact same thing to get the clarity to know if leaving is the right thing, and if so, helping them to actually formulate that plan and support them along the way. You can head to the link in my show notes to book a call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. And that's it for this episode. I'll chat with you in the next one. Take care.